Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is October 10th, 2012, and this is the Domain Web Studio 4.0 live webinar. The presenters are myself, Russell Wright. I'm the co-inventor of the Theme, Zoom, Kraken, and Last Keyword tool, natural language processing application. I've been around for the last 5 and 6 years in web development and online vertical marketing. My primary interest is in neuromarketing, persuasion, and neuroeconomics. Also with us today is Matt DeCruz, my good friend and business partner, really just a genius because of his ability to synergize, create a synthesis of multiple disciplines throughout his life. He's run multi-million-dollar businesses. I'm learning a ton from him in areas that I have not focused, mainly how to use local leads and call center distribution and syndication, as well as a master SEO in his own right, an SEO auditor, as well as pretty much becoming a deadly programmer. He is the primary developer, inventor, along with Sue Bell of the Domain Web Studio application, which is why you're here. The vision for this application was to build a blog and or website empire for ourselves, and not to go public with it. And the reason that it went public, there's a variety of different reasons. And as you know, we are closing the doors to the general public because of the training requirements for this, which is why we're having webinars. So I'm really glad that you're here. And I'm really excited to show you, someday these types of webinars will be mostly behind closed doors or live events only. Currently it takes about 7 to 9 days to fully deepen someone's training to the point that they can build a multi-million-dollar blog network. However, these webinars are incredibly powerful just to get you kick-started, and Matt's going to jump in today. We decided to do a different kind of format. We're just waiting for the last few people to show up, so I'm stalling just a little bit. But we're going to stay with the first tab. Rather than show you the entire thing, we've been having problems trying to communicate the entire application in one webinar. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to stick to the first couple of features and show you the benefits. And then we're going to open it up so that we're not so tense just trying to get through the 2 hours, cramming every open space with stuff so that your brain's just kind of like overloaded. We don't want that. It hasn't been that effective. So we're going to slow down, and Matt's going to talk about the primary silo, the keyword decision screening. Going to get it. That leaves a lot of open space for this discussion of SEO and website silo architecture. In 2013, we plan on really slowing way down for people who are getting wrapped around the axle about website silo architecture. It's just not that hard, and because it seems like it's hard, we want to slow down a bit and show you what's really going on with that, and how to integrate the new social media and dynamic content density into your sites, how content curation integrates into your sites, and so on. So with no further ado, I'm going to just step out of the way, and Matt's going to start the presentation. I'm going to be watching the questions today, and since we do have quite a bit of more open space, I'm able to watch these questions as they come in. Matt's going to stop off and on to see, to check in about the questions and see if everybody's still with us, and hopefully we haven't confused you or distracted you or something like that. And then I'll go ahead and answer that question either there or during the break times. And at the end, we're going to leave at least 20 minutes to answer questions, and we'll answer them one by one. Okay? Thanks for joining us today, Matt. How's everything in South Africa?
Oh, it's great. It's getting settled in. I see a lot of opportunities here in South Africa at the moment, so it's quite interesting coming back after nearly a decade being in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can stop sending me all the surf pictures and ocean pictures on Google Earth or on Google. Yeah. I don't know what you're trying to do to us over here.
No, that's why I'm trying to entice you to come over for a month or two and come check the place out.
Yeah, well, I know we're real excited about visiting you, and it's a little bit of a different time zone than we're used to, but it's great, and we're looking forward. So what are your plans today? We talked a little bit about getting into this. You're going to go over the keyword decision screen and the silo architecture
screen. basically what I want to do is give an overview of the whole system briefly for like 10 minutes. I'll just give the top level overview. Then I want to drop down into the system and show the empires and the sites and explain the logic and the reasons why we built it like that. Then I want to go from there to the silo framework screen, and I want to speak about silo architecture, how we build it out, things to think about, have a good chat about that, and show them how DWS interacts with that conversation. But I want the guys to start getting the understanding of why the actual screen exists, because a lot of the screens are built for specific purposes, and they're not just there to make the system look fancy. They've got a practical application to them. So that's what we'd like to cover today. It's just the starting block, how to get started, how to use the system, how to basically move things around, why are certain buttons there, what is website architecture, and those type of topics, a few topics about backlinking to the structure. So guys can really get a grasp of what we're trying to show them.
Okay, and again, for those of you who have just joined us, and we still have a few more people coming in, today we're doing a little bit of a different format where we're just going to go over the first part, and we're going to be using these replays as educational material. So it's really important that your questions are integrated. So if you have something that's really been bugging you, I usually call this a take your gloves off type of session, where everything's an open book, and don't worry about being rude or something's annoying you, or there's something that you are having trouble with, or you haven't been able to get through on the help desk about something. Just go ahead and put those questions through, because what I do is I drop these questions down onto the desktop and I use them for different things. And if there's known issues that come up, then I'm able to archive them. So this is a great time for you to be able to do that. So you can be thinking about those questions, and as we have our sessions open at the end of this presentation, be able to do that. All right, Matt, I think we probably have whoever's going to be here. So let's just go for it.
Cool. Okay. Shut this out the way. Yeah, so guys, this is DWS version 4. It's been 2 years in the making, and it's been a love-hate relationship, but more love purely because with every iteration it's just got so much more powerful, so much more fluid, and so much better. So the main question is, why did we build DWS? Basically, soon I had a conversation a few years back, and I showed her what I started working on, she showed me what she's working on, and we started chatting, and the common frustration that we shared was just keeping management of everything, all the moving parts. Now, with online marketing, it's now online broadcasting. So we're not just writing letters or sticking banners up. We're actually doing a lot of video, media, and a lot of cool stuff. So the web's evolved to a really cool thing. But the downside of that is that there's so much stuff that you've got to keep tabs on. And this is the primary reason why we built DWS. So looking at the end result of DWS, the end goal is basically to have an interface, a system, a process that basically manages your whole syndication and promotion. But it's not robotic in the sense that it does the same thing over and over and over again. It needs to adapt to what you're working on, but then also needs to be able to be loose enough that you can actually customize and do what you want, or have a team given very clear instructions. So this is what the end result of DWS is a coherent organization of all your metadata brought up to a final point, which then automatically creates a promotional blueprint based on what you built out. So if you had to build like a one-page website, you'd get like probably August and September. You wouldn't get much work associated with promoting it. But if you built out a 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 site, then you'll have a massive marketing plan, because that's more like a market domination type of website where you want to swallow up an entire market. So this is why we built DWS. It was basically to get us to a point where we could have a strategic plan that's bespoke to what we built out, so that we can actually get us everywhere now on the web. Okay, so here's our website, and we're on all the search engines, and we're on all the social platforms. But we're all doing it from an integrated system. And this is where we're going to with TWS. Okay. So here's some of the pains we removed from DWS. Basically, there's no more trying to figure out what to do. If you follow the process, it takes you through the whole system. Okay. There's no losing control of your team. If you've got guys working with you, The system tells them every single day what they need to do, day by day, what keywords to use, how long the article needs to be. They got very clear instructions. Okay, so there's no more having to have spreadsheets and 10 systems. Everything gets managed right here. You don't have to worry about getting lost in specific promotional tasks. Okay, the system tells you and gives you a broad sweep of all the basic things you should be doing when promoting, and it tells you those tasks and sorts it out for you. Okay, there's no more worrying about what anchor text to use. The system basically takes your entire blueprint and pulls out the best keywords and pushes it into the anchor text for you. It suggests, okay, use this anchor text when you're writing this promotional media. And then also there's automatic backlinking from the media type to your primary website. No more worrying about over-optimization penalties, okay? With our system, it's not that we're over-optimizing, we're just working with a very smart system. We're working with a fluid system that is process-driven, and it's giving us small things to think about when we're dealing with a particular type of task. So when we come to build out our site's built out very strategically, but it's not over-optimized. And with silo architecture, you don't get penalized for over-optimization. No more losing spreadsheets, tasks, people, actions, and no more losing promotional or social account details. Okay, so basically when we do the promotion, essentially what you do in the DW system is you press a button. It'll take your 4,000 keyword blueprint or 4,000 page website, and it will generate an entire promotional plan for the full lifetime of the hardest keyword to get ranked in the system. So for all the key easy ones, you'll see how it actually builds everything out. So once you've generated your promotional plan, you quickly can assign your work to whoever's going to do it. They create the media, whether it's writing, video, whatever type of media you want. It comes back to you, quality control. If you like it, you push it on. If you don't like it, you send it straight back to the creator. Okay, it passes. Basically, you can sit and you can promote your stuff. You can push it out to the web live, so you start publishing. And as you publish, you record where it's been published, and that automatically feeds it out through the RSS networks, which then publishes it all across the web. So that's basically how our DWS works on the promotion side. But that's the end of the story. That's what you get to. So with DWS Network Empire, what we give you is the Network Empire training. You get a full stackable system. Okay, this is the educational process of how to go about building the whole system out. That's your business processes, and then you got the project management suite, Domain Web Studio. So let's look at the whole process. But like we said in today's presentation, we basically just look at the sites and the empires, and then the very first step, which is creating your silo structure, your website silo architecture, doing your market research, understanding the pains in the market. We're going to talk about that today. Okay, so I'm in Domain Web Studio here, and when you log in, the very first thing you see is empires. Empires, okay? If you hover over empires, you can create a new empire by clicking on that there, or you can create a new empire via. Essentially, an empire is a container. It's a universe that you're creating. And within the empire, when you open it up, you can have multiple sites, okay? Now, these sites can be either for targeting one keyword. You can build them out to promote a specific silo. You can build out multiple sites tackling on the market. You can go as big as you want under a empire. So you can basically, in your empire, all your projects that you're working on, you'll keep them grouped in empire. And this helps you get structure. And especially when you attend our certification events, we'll start talking about how to build out networks and all this kind of stuff. Then this is where the organization of the actual data becomes highly, highly important. And this is where you start dealing with your naming conventions. So this will be my primary website. Like you can see over there, we've got the primary web ring, the project's trust deed. It's a lead engine. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a whole website to drive leads from this market. That's our primary website. But then I can create another site, which is my WRS one, where I target specific keywords for my social ring. Then I can create another website. I can call this a WR2, and that can be a subset of this primary website. They're going to focus on, let's just say a particular niche, one silo with 5 articles. You're going to focus on those keywords on a social platform. You can use the system to get very, very complex, or you can just create a site in an empire and you can focus on getting ranked for one specific keyword. It's totally up to you how you use the system. Okay. So when we created the screen, we wanted to basically manage multiple different markets. Okay, so you can think of an empire as a market. And this will be the Chinese empire, the American empire, the European empire, however you want to think about it. And within the empires, we have multiple projects. That's how simple this screen is. Now, if you want to add a new site, you can click on this link, or if you open it up, you can actually update the parameters to this specific project. Now, when we look at this tab, where we've got our project data in it, it gives you quick access. You can click on any of these links and you can actually run through the entire workflow of DWS. This is a stackable system where we build our silo framework first. We can then do our DNA braids, which is very important. We then can communicate and set up our team. We can then write our primary content for our website. It's this site here, the content for this site. We can export it out, publish our website, get it built, and then once it's live and everything's optimized, we can start promoting it. So today we're going to basically speak about this first step over here. This is a silo framework, and it comes in two versions. We've got the basic version, which gives us limited data, and we've got the advanced version, which gives us PPC data as well. Okay. Now, the reason why the silo framework is sitting here first is because our core inception module, which is almost finished now, has not been completed. So that's essentially going to come in front of the silo framework. And with the core inception, essentially what we're doing is using Quora to go find out what are the questions that people are asking, what are the pains in the market, and how do we need to position ourselves? Who's the audience? Is it male? Is it female? We're sort of going to be looking at those things there. And that's how we look at that data, we break it down. Then we come, once we understand what we've done and we've got our basic keywords, we then come and start building out the silo framework. We start designing the structure of the whole website. And that's it. So to access this page here, you simply click on any of these links and it'll take you to the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through Empire quick. I'm going to click on Create a New Empire. I'm just going to call this DWS Demo. Okay, so all you do is basically you give your empire name, the objective, the presentation explaining the suite. Okay, whatever your business objective is, you'd fill it in over here. Okay, then we click Create New Empire. That's the empire's job done. When this page reloads, it brings us to the actual site where we create the site. This is the first step within this. You're going to create a new site. Okay. So I'm just going to jump back to the home screen. There's our DWS demo, but we've got no sites in it yet. Okay, so we can either click on Empires, a new empire, or we can access the DWS demo by clicking on that over there. We create our site, or we can actually update it over here, or we can actually delete this whole project. If you delete an empire, you will delete the empire plus all the sites. So if I click on delete, what you'll see is you get a screen that says, are you sure you want to do this? And we give you a warning. If you press that button, delete cluster, you will wipe everything out. All your projects, all your sites, everything will be gone and we cannot get it back. Okay, so I'm just going to hop into this one here, the DWS demo, and show you we can get to add new site over here. From the home screen, we can get it from there as well. We just click add new site and it brings us over here. So when we click on add new site, this is your global parameters. This is the very, very top level pieces of metadata that define what you're trying to do for this particular project, the site that you're going to build. Okay, so when you go through this form, if you hover over the question mark, it'll give you information about what you need to do. So you've got these little help files all the way through, just telling you about things. If things are mandatory, they'll have a little red star next to them. Okay, so the very first thing we do here is we type in the keyword we're going to go after. So we're going to say SEO management software. Okay. If we've got a domain, you just fill it in. Okay. And if there's a blog, you just put it in there wherever the URL is. Okay. We then give this a name. I typically like to name my projects after the primary keyword that I'm after. But for yourself, you can do it however you want to. That's totally up to you. Okay. Purpose, sales. Okay. Now, the promotional ring site belongs to this. What this does here is you can create a web ring 2 or primary, and this just helps us categorize where we're actually building the sites within the actual network. So if you're over there, if you click on this video here, you see this little icon that usually tells you there's more information related to that specific node over there. And what this does, it brings up the web rings that we build out. So Russell's done a ton of videos. There's a lot of important information. Read through this information over here, and that'll help you understand better what we're actually doing when we're defining the different types of rings. Okay. You then select the locale that you're targeting, okay, and the currency that you're working in. Then we get to the silo market size, and once again, you can click on that video there. So a new tab, and yeah, Russell's done a video over keyword architecture type, and he does a really great presentation here on what it's all about. Okay, so watch that, and he will explain in there what has to get done. Backlink cost, basically, how much does it cost you to acquire a backlink? Now, usually when you think of a backlink, people think of a piece of anchor text, but that's not really what you need to think about. You need to think about the content that surrounds that anchor text. Who's writing that content, and what's going to cost them to create that article so that you can do a backlink. Those are backlinks that are of value, okay? Because it's contextual, it fits into the story is in tune with your whole website, it comes back, okay? Now, the content cost per article, this is to write the primary articles of your website. So when you think about promoting the site, you have to create content. When you think about writing the primary content of your website, what are you going to cost you? And that's what you do. Both is a content base, but they have different prices. You've got to think about that. Backlink, it's an article plus to create a backlink, okay? Or it's the backlink that you're buying off a network somewhere. Now, this is a very important part of the whole system, the site conversion rules. We can adjust these, and as soon as we adjust these numbers here, this will dynamically reflect across the entire system from start to finish. It will affect all your costings, or affect all your metrics, or affect conversions, or affect everything. And basically what this says is Google traffic conversion if in position number 1. When we rank for a keyword, okay, in position number 1, how many percentages of the click-throughs will we get on every time our keyword is searched? So typically what I do is I put in 25%, and sometimes I even drop it to be conservative. You want to be conservative with these metrics so you can get like the worst case scenario of what you're dealing with. And then as you get more familiar with the market, you can come back and update these, and it will adjust more things, and it will expose more keywords that are actually more tangible, because now you're starting to see how the market's responding to what you're putting out there. You're watching your sales change, you're watching how things are working in the business. Then you can adjust. Okay. What is the affiliate vendors website conversion, or the sales follow-up conversion? If you're doing lead engines, or you're passing leads on to people, okay, a very important question to ask the people is, what if they can sell? Because you could drive them 1,000 leads, but if the sales team cannot sell, that will impact your profit you make, but also increase your costs, because you're going to drive a whole lot more traffic, okay, to the website. So what you can say to a guy, if you're speaking to him, if you're consulting, you say to him, okay, out of every 10 sales or leads you get, how many actually convert to a sale? and they'll say, well, 3, 4, 5, and that's the percentage you want to basically put in over there. And for affiliates, it's the same principle. If you're driving people to your website and then linking them off to a affiliate, it's the same principle. How many of those people actually do convert? So average profit, what do you make out of a person? What do you make out of a sale? When you sell something at a specific unit, what is the profit you make? Or if the people typically buy more than one unit, what's the average profit you make off the multiple sales? And that's the number you're going to fill in here. And as soon as you fill it in, we get to another important thing. What is your budget? Now, if you're building sites for yourself, it's still going to cost you money. If you sit for a whole month and you're not doing anything else and you're working this whole website, that's essentially cost you $5,000, $6,000, whatever your wage is. And you need to think about what your budget is. If you're not too bothered about it, set it high. Then you want to define what is the objective, the financial objective of this website. Why are you building this website? What is the end goal? Do you want it just to pay off your car mortgage, your car bond, okay, any loans? So let's say you got a loan, you're going to pay back $400 a month. That's your objective. With this website, you'll need 4 sales to achieve your goal, and you get one guy out of every 100 guys, but you only need 400 people hitting your website a month. That's a good little site you can build to make $5,000 a month or $400 a month. If you want to make larger numbers like $5,000, you put the numbers in, you can see how much traffic you need to drive. Okay, so when you click on create site, the very next step it does, it takes us to the keyword decision screen. Okay, and this is where everything begins. Now you'll see in Network Empire, we have the silo framework, we have the advanced silo framework, we've got links to Kraken, links to the last keyword tool, we've got the DNA braid. On this demo I'm showing you now, this is going to be the latest version of DWS, where we've actually changed the navigation bar at the top here so that it's iPad friendly. So for all the Mac users that use iPads and mobile devices, this menu will work now. So this is a big upgrade we've done to the system to make it more fluid with mobile devices. Okay, right, so that's basically empires. Okay, we've created an empire, which we call DWS demo. We've then created our first site, and we're going to look at SEO management software. We're going to speak about SEO management software today, and we're going to have a look at it. And then after we created the parameters for that, which we can update by clicking on the update link over here, we've got the silo framework. Now we can click on this link here, and this takes us back. And this is where we start importing our keywords and building our website. Before I move on to this, Russ, should we answer any questions for guys that have any questions about empires, that first tab?
Sure. Sure. Can you hear me okay, Matt?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. There are currently no questions in the queue, but I'd like to open, maybe give a 15 or 20-second pause here for people to add their questions. Any questions on empire building? Anybody having a difficult time creating, we had a question last week on, how do I delete an empire or recreate an empire? That was one of the questions that came up in our help desk this week, and I think that was figured out.
I'll show that
one of the
again.
questions. Here's one of the questions. Show everyone how to delete an empire in case they want to start over. That was a common question.
Typically, what you do is you just click on New Empire, and then these are all the empires you have. And if you click on the trash can, that will delete the empire and all the sites within that empire. It's as simple as that. So you click on that, it comes back and says, "Are you sure you want to do this?" This is a big red warning, because when you click on that delete cluster, it wipes the entire node, all the keywords, absolutely everything you've done, all your articles, all your content, it purges it from the database.
Yeah. Guys, be really careful with this button. And if you have any questions at all, contact the help desk, because we can't bring this stuff back.
Yeah, if it's gone, it's gone.
And it's gone, it's gone. Yeah. And so we hesitated to even put this in there and thought about turning it into a, contact us if you want to delete it. You'll see a lot of systems and softwares out there that don't allow you to do this, that I've noticed recently. Okay, another question is, Matt, how many empires can I build with my subscription of Domain Web Studio. This is not legacy. This is a new person. And what exactly is an empire again? If you were to define it simply, like one sentence.
Empire. What is an empire in one sentence? Well, if you
what is an empire?
An empire is basically a collection of multiple entities. So if you thought of the Roman Empire, they basically went and conquered nation and nation, all the neighbors, and those neighbors then became part of the Roman Empire. Essentially, if you're going after a market, the idea of an empire is that market is actually the empire. So if you look at the debt market, you've got credit cards, you've got secured loans, unsecured loans, you've got IVAs, trustees, debt plans, debt solutions, remortgages on your property to get money to pay off your loans. There's all these little entities that make up the world of debt. So the empire would be debt, and then we will create multiple sites within that empire defining each specific sector that we're targeting.
Right, and I do want to emphasize, because Brian is asking some cool questions here, and Brian, welcome to the webinar. I'm going to answer both of your questions, and also Jeffrey, but I do want to address this issue that Matt just talked about. There is not a single way to organize an empire. We have models for you, and if you guys could just jot down www.onewebringtorulethemall.com, or else go to the themezoomglossary.com. And if you look under M, as in Michael, or market domination, you'll see a pretty good series in the glossary of definitions of how we organize what we call an empire. And a lot of the time, people who are newbies or intermediate, they really do need a couple hours of coaching or whatever, or else they go to the help desk. When it comes to strategizing, I'm fine to do independent consulting through Network Empire or Matt, or if we have time, we will guide you through, as long as just only strategizing. Because the way that you organize your empire is really unique to what you're selling. The best suggestion I can give you here is walk forward from your product, because Matt has created the business rules and decisions based on that, and also that's just good common sense. And silo infrastructure relates 100% to what it is that you're selling. At the end of the day, we're dealing with either a product or a service, and if we're not dealing with a product or service, we're probably a nonprofit or educational. And website silo architecture does apply to those. But you really have to have a good web strategy based on profit flow, and that's why Matt, Sue, and I designed Domain Web Studio the way that we did. Now, with that being said, if you look at the bullseye view of the web empire, Matt, do you have that available, since you actually have the screen? Is it possible for you to get? I mean, I think maybe just a quick review, since we do have a little extra time today, because we're not trying to cram 9 days into 2 hours.
Yeah, that's just.
If you can open a new tab, and you can go to onewebringtorulethemall.com. So really, or if you want to go to the glossary, either one. I just want to pull up that graph. I know that's kind of a mouthful. I should probably make it easier. Yeah. While we're doing that, let me just say that Brian has asked, for the silo architecture, do you need to have already applied Kraken, or can you do it directly through DWS? Now, I'm hoping that this question is going to get answered by what it is that I'm trying to tell you now. The answer to that question is it depends. And what it depends on is what your strategy and what your goal, what you're trying to accomplish. Kraken is a vertical online market analysis tool. We have a webinar replay from our Kraken presentation on Thursday, where Sue Bell and I presented the original Kraken LSI technology. And we also have the last keyword tool presentation tomorrow. These are things for people who are not happy with spending hundreds of hours or dozens of hours trying to find every keyword around a cluster and understanding the market. It's the ultimate market research tool and the ultimate kind of educational process for if you don't know the words, topics, and themes and clusters and your competition around a master theme or a vertical market, then you need Kraken. If you don't use Kraken, then you're going to be kind of using all of the other tools that are out there that don't do vertical analysis. So Kraken is not a keyword research tool. It's a vertical analysis tool by virtue of the fact that we process over 80,000 keywords. When you type in a word, say, for example, I don't know what industry you're in, Brian, but if you typed in something like trampolines or rebounders, what Kraken does is it goes out and pulls in thousands upon thousands of keywords. Okay, and those thousands of keywords are processed through our algorithm that is a vertical algorithm rather than just a keyword algorithm. So Kelley designed it so that it only brings back out of the 35 to 85,000 keywords, depending upon how large your market is, only the keywords that meet a profitability standard, that have traffic and cost, and have a co-occurrence. Co-occurrence is a technical term for people who are talking about trampolines are also talking about bouncing. Okay? And if they're talking about bouncing at a certain percentage, then that makes the cut. And if they're talking about bouncing suits or trampoline uniforms, okay, within that same conversation, it's got traffic, it's got competition, it's got a co-occurrence, then Kraken will bring that back. It goes through thousands upon thousands upon thousands of keywords in under 10 minutes. And that's why essentially the tool is not hugely profitable for us, because we're processing, geez, Matt, I don't know, like what, tens of thousands of web pages? I mean, it's ridiculous, actually.
Yeah, no, it's
a massive tool.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah, let me just put it this way. I would never build it again, so that should let you know. It's really cool. We are moving towards a situation where we're moving the ultimate network empire tool, this Domain Web Studio and all the functionality of Kraken, all of this stuff combined, and we're moving towards that over the next 6 months. So again, I use Kraken literally every day. I don't use any other tools because it doesn't make sense to me. So my process, the reason we started this new webinar on Thursdays is because we want to make sure that everybody really knows what's actually going on under the hood. Now, to answer Brian's question, for silo architecture, do you need to have already applied Kraken, or can you do it directly through Domain Web Studio? Matt designed Domain Web Studio to really easily build website silo architecture based on any keyword standardization that you've actually got, and he's going to get into that in the upcoming few minutes. You can build silo architecture that's technically, structurally correct, and again, Domain Web Studio is still garbage in, garbage out. If you don't give it new keywords, it's up to you to decide the sources. That's why Matt designed Domain Web Studio to pull in keywords from several different sources, and we have favorite sources, but we don't comment on those as much. We don't say, hey, we hate Market Samurai, or hey, we hate whatever in this thing. All we're telling you is the facts that most of those tools are not latent semantic indexing tools. In fact, none of them are. And we keep the price point separate because, Kraken, retail, Kraken is the grand per month. It's not a internet marketing tool. So we want to make it cost effective for you. That's why we've offered a couple day prices, a week price, and now we have the special for the month of October is like $600 or something. So you don't need Kraken to build a silo architecture, but it does give you the words faster, organizes your competition, creates your structure, and churns through all the keywords that can take a bit longer. Now, Domain Web Studio works very quickly to do very similar things in the sense that the sources of the keywords that are in there, it's still, as long as you can make sure that Domain Web Studio, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you don't provide accurate data, if you don't provide the things that you need, Domain Web Studio is not a keyword tool. Domain Web Studio is a massive process management, factory managing, empire building, organization, and structural integration machine. I hope that kind of makes sense. Now, if it doesn't, you'll have to use the application a little bit. You don't need Kraken, Brian, to make your website silo architecture with Domain Web Studio, as you'll see in the next few minutes. You can output Domain Web Studio data based on whatever keyword tools, as long as you make sure you're providing the right data and using all of the tools that Matt gave you to create the perfect data, or the best, the least imperfect data. And then you can output all of that using our siloblogbuilder.com plugin, and you can go directly to the blog. Okay, so Kraken is for those who really want to swallow their market whole. They want to make sure they've turned over every single rock in the industry. It's a level above most of the tools out there, which is why Matt really designed Domain Web Studio, ultimately preparing to receive the data from Kraken, because he really knows that it's the primary data that you want to use.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Brian? Okay,
yeah.
Matt, we have a couple more questions. We have a couple more questions. Also asked, what does cluster refer to directly? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about with the one web ring to rule them all function here. Okay, what we're just trying to do, folks, is when you see the center of this bullseye, WR1, WR1 is, this is a method that Sue, Matt, and I created. This is your bullseye. This is, my daughter goes to a school that they have something called learning targets. Well, this is your profit target, okay? This is like what Matt has given you, the KPI, the business decisions. This is the reason you have the business decision, so that you know where you're pointing all this traffic. You see, when you get really advanced and you have big networks that are worth millions of dollars, these different rainbow-colored rings, they're all different clusters of sites. So, Brian, to answer your question, there's clusters of keywords, there's clusters of themes, there's clusters of sites, and then you can even zoom way out and have clusters of empires, literally. You know, 100 sites that's focused on one theme, and you have 5 different clusters of hundreds of sites all focused on different aspects of a theme, or even tangent themes. So what we're looking at is, Brian, if you want more details on that, please do visit themezoomglossary.com and look up KDNA, look up EKDNA, and all the different levels of clusters that you can have, because we did have to define our terms scientifically so that we could keep people on track with the various levels of integration. So this is what you have. If you look at WR1, Matt's designing empires and making it easy for you to do something that took us thousands upon thousands of hours, which is to take the strategy of the WR1, WR2, know where the websites and the domains exist in this empire, and drive that target to the middle of the bullseye, which is your learning or your profit target. So that all of the golden frames, and you can look on themezoomglossary.com, look up golden frames under the G. Golden frame is, regardless if you're on a WR1, a WRS1, a WR2, or WRS2, whether you're dealing with social third-party platforms that you don't own, whether you're using platforms that you do own, whether those platforms have your personal brand in the banner, or whether they're just made-up stuff that you would never want to associate with because it's too weird. Whatever the case, however you're driving traffic, you have to have a golden frame and a profit target that drives everything to your WR1. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time on those business decision rules that Matt showed us earlier. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah.
I see there's more. I'll see there's more questions. Wow, thanks, Brian. I think we nailed it for Brian. Kevin and Jeff have more questions, but I'm going to let Matt move forward. And guys, I'll come back around during another pause and let Matt jump in here. I know he has a lot to say about what I also just said, so I'll step back from it. And if you have more questions on online strategy, we'll get into that more. Go ahead, Matt. You have more to add to this?
Yeah. There's three important things that are really simple for the guys to remember. One, link juice flows downhill. It never flows uphill. Okay? So
correct.
When you're linking to your primary website, the quality of the link must always be good the closer you get to the center. If you throw rubbish rings in your WRS1 or your WR2 one, just junk links, you're going to get no quality from it coming through here. You want to do those at your WR3s. So profile backlinks and blog comments, all that junk, this is where you would do them out on different properties you don't own. You'll have those linking down and flowing down little bits of page rank to your WR2s, which are either branded or unbranded, leading back into your primary inner ring, which is all your blogs and websites you own, and then finally the focus one. And you filter everything through this filter so that the link juice runs downhill, so that only the best filters through to your site. And that's what makes it really strong.
Right, and hang on a second, Matt, before I'm looking to slow down and define our terms. Seems like there's a couple of questions on what branding is. You guys, do you understand what we mean by branded versus unbranded sites? Not really. Okay, good. All right, great question. Just a really quick thing. A branded site means that it's something that your brand is associating with. It's a corporation or a company or an LLC or doing business as. But usually a branded site, like a Facebook page, for example, with your face on it, with your real photograph, that's like a personal brand, right? You really are who you are, and you're hopefully not making stuff up. Well, websites are the same thing. A pseudo brand, which is usually a WR2, might be something that you're driving a lot of auto blog or auto video content to. You don't necessarily want your primary brand tied to it. Might be secondary sources, might be completely unrelated. so it doesn't necessarily have, Microsoft on those sub-sites or those subdomains. It may or may not have sub-brands on it. So by branding, we're talking about logo, images, the contact us, and the about us page. If you wouldn't dare put your about us or your address or your KHL file or anything else on there, it's probably a WR2.
Yeah.
And if it's on a social platform, it's probably a WRS2. Okay. All right, great. Thanks. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say with regards to the rings. If you're new to all of this, guys, just stick around, yeah? Don't worry about all the stuff.
Matt, I didn't mean to hijack your conversation. Now, Matt, how does this relate to your empire? Let's jump back to DWS. When you look at the one web ring to rule them all, in your mind, your empire is pretty much, in your mind, when you designed Domain Web Studio, you were kind of building a system that allowed you to build out these rings as big as you wanted with an empire, right?
Yeah. I wanted to create as many rings as I needed to for a particular niche, but I also wanted to have a system that was loose enough or fluid enough to allow me to create a solid structure just for doing a PPC campaign, for example, where I'll just map out.
So hopefully, So hopefully you guys are beginning to see precisely how insane Matt actually is to write a software like that.
So essentially, like for example, one of the questions there is, can you create 3 sites to manage 3 silos in one website? And the answer is yes. With DWS, we made it totally fluid. So at the moment, this is where we create the structure of a site. So if the question I saw there from Kevin was basically, can we create 3 sites which focus on a particular silo, because different silos have different page ranks that you're targeting and different costs involved and different promotions. And it's a very interesting question that Kevin's asked. So what I'll do is
it's a good one, Kevin. Thank you.
Kevin's an advanced SEO, so guys, if you're new to this, pay very careful attention to what I'm saying, because this is pretty advanced stuff that Kevin's asked a question about. In our empire, we've created a site. The site we've created is SEO management. This SEO management software can be an individual silo that I want, and in my business rules and filters over here, the second drop down, the first thing it asks you is how many keywords do you want to see in this at once. So I'll come back to this shortly, but I'm going to finish this question of Kevin's. Website theme compared to the average page rank. Let's say you're doing a marketing debt, for example. If you went for debt, your typical page rank will be 7s or 8s, and that's going to be one hell of a fight. You're going to have to build up authority, you're going to have to build a really strong network, and you're going to have a lot of money to do this, okay? And that could be the one way. So you come in there and you adjust the costs of what it's going to cost to build that site. You might have to get subject expert matters in because it's a regulated industry. So you have to maybe pay the guys a lot of money to write the primary content. So then your primary content cost will increase. Okay. So if you think of a silo, if you go back to the keyword decision screen, typically you have the theme page, which is SEO management software. This link here represents the top of the whole structure. Then we can add silos, and typically each silo will be a page that sits underneath that structure. We can then add categories to a silo, and they will typically branch off as categories over here. Let me get a drawing pen. That's that one. So there's our index page. Here's our silos. Okay. And if we took one silo, we could essentially create one site, which is this one here, and only map out this silo with its categories. Excuse the drawings. So let's just say we've got X amount of categories all the way down, 5 categories at a minimum to support the theme. Then with DWS, we can actually branch off to another level of a particular topic, and we can add more supporting articles to support that actual category. So essentially what happens here is you get supporting articles, your categories, your silo, and that links to the theme. And you can do this with one empire and 3 sites. You could have silo 1 just as a thing on its own, silo 2, you can have silo 3. So you end up with 3 sites within an empire. And
yep. And
from here, just want to finish off the last. How do you get rid of this pen?
Yeah, totally.
There. So what you do is when we go back to empires here now, and we open up the silo framework over here, essentially we'll have the first silo, the second one, the third one. Now, the way DWS works is it takes all the metadata, particularly to that project, and feeds it out here through the export manager at stage 5. This is where we export out the XML file that holds that whole structure. You can take our silo plugin builder, now a WP silo blog builder plugin that we developed, and you can import this export into your blog. You can then take the next site and import in, and you can take the next site and you can import in and actually build 3 sites. You can then have 3 separate teams on each of these things working simultaneously who are all experts in the actual field, and all 3 of these silos will get built out separately because each one will have its own unique promotional plan based on the silo structure that you've actually mapped out here with the page rank and the costs involved. You get a unique plan for that. So then you're promoting to each individual part of your site in a different way. But that's like 3 sites, 3 projects you're actually managing at the same time. So if you're not advanced and you don't know what you're doing, think carefully about it. But Kevin, that's how you'd basically go about doing it.
Yeah, and I'd like to also add to Kevin's, I hope does everybody still have sound? We had somebody who had lost audio. I'm assuming you can hear us still. Looks like we're good. Okay. I just wanted to add to Kevin, my preferred model is to, I view silos as either sites or pages on a site. To me, there's really no difference. A silo is a relationship between a word and a page and an idea and a set of ideas to one that you would like to pass link juice. I feel like a lot of SEOs get really stuck in page rank and ranking as the only aspect of that. Users and search queries have a relationship with ideas, and those ideas are being driven to a final transaction. Sometimes they jump from 2 or 3 different websites before they finally make that transaction. I prefer having WR2 sites that cover all the long tails, and then driving the long tails to the silo on the project page, on the main project. So in that empire, I like to create automated sites that drive long tail traffic to major sites, and then that site is also siloed. And then the link juice is so powerful at that point when done properly. But it's not just the link juice I'm interested in. I'm watching engagement and all these other things. Now, those of you who've done some of this, you already know a rule of thumb, and Matt's tried to make it really, really easy for you. Rule of thumb is it's generally more expensive to set up a new blog or a new site, even if you have automated systems to do that. So, make sure that you complete the silo architecture on your primary money site, your WR1, before you start spreading your attention, finances, and goals, your profit goals across multiple web rings. Make sure that you've got that closed, the closing page, the landing page, the conversion, the transaction page, really well done before you start investing money into what Matt calls IT debt to build wider and wider. Don't go wide until you've tested the transaction of your dead center bullseye. And that is when someone hits the page, do you have a video on there to convert them? When someone hit that page, are you making offers? Are you clear on what you're selling? What are you selling? This is where sales come in. If you don't have your sales page up, don't keep building wider and wider if your client doesn't have a sales page up, if you don't have a strategy for that conversion. But once you do, you can send an ocean of traffic. This is why we do use Kraken, because make sure that you have all the long and TLKT, make sure you have all the long tails, all the verticals, everything to drive all of that ocean of concepts, of memes, of ideas, of values. It's not just keywords. It's everything. And you can really only do that when you start diversifying across a network of sites. But make sure your primary WR1 is really structured before you start doing what Kevin is asking about here.
Yeah. As a rule, build your primary, test it, send paid traffic to it or whatever you want to do, Twitter traffic, test each page and make sure it converts. Okay. If it doesn't convert, work on it a bit more. Okay. With the promotions, you can start promoting single pages if they are working. You can start promoting that as a single entity in TWS. You don't have to promote all the pages at once. You can do one page at a time. But focus on the conversions. Make sure it works because you're selling the click. The whole point of building these rings is to drive traffic. Okay. The backlink is a byproduct of these actions. Okay, so DWS manages that there. The backlink's just like a anchor text that's linking back in, and everyone focuses on that, but they forget to focus on who's actually reading the content and what's the purpose of it being there. You want to drive traffic.
Yeah,
traffic equals
exactly.
sales. Traffic equals conversions. Traffic increases your bottom line if your inner ring converts. If it doesn't, like I said, all that traffic comes in there will just fall down a black hole. Boom, gone.
And yeah, again, just to emphasize that, this is something that Matt and I repeat quite a bit, especially with intermediate to beginner, and I know there's a lot of advanced on here too. What are you selling? This is, again, to speak to Brian's early question on Kraken versus Domain Web Studio. People who really don't have products or services, they like to spend a lot of time data mining and looking for what products and services to sell. That's a great way to use Kraken and TLKT, which is, I'm not sure what I want to sell yet. Let me look at how much money is in this market. Domain Web Studio is more targeting when you've decided what you want to sell, when you know what you have, when you know what your productization is, when you know the problem that you're trying to solve in the market with your product and service, your ISDNA, as we talk about it in the members area. Very, very important. Once you have that, Domain Web Studio becomes really profitable really fast. If you don't know what you're selling, honestly, Domain Web Studio is not that useful. You need to spend a couple days with Kraken at least, and then get Domain Web Studio to start driving the traffic from the outer rings into the inner profit target.
Yeah, DWS is built to build campaigns rapidly with succinct accuracy. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. They know what they have to do today. You can build an army and have an army of guys working on all your projects, and you can have them all running simultaneously if you master the system and you understand how to set it all up. Okay.
Right. So I'm speaking directly to you, Frank, because I know that you're still trying to decide what you want to sell on the internet. Domain Web Studio, be really careful. Make sure that you come up with, find your product or service first, and then talk to me. We've already had this conversation, so you know where to contact me. Okay, let's keep going, Matt.
Yeah. So the site framework screen. When we set up we set up a project. We had our site parameters. As we go through the business and filters, okay, you'll see basically you can define how many keywords you want. You can define how much page rank you're up against. Now, if you're in the low echelons, the campaign and the promotion becomes pretty light. The higher you climb the scale, the more of a fight you have. The page buffer, yeah, this is an advanced feature. So basically what it does is if you're in a pretty staunch competitive market and you feel you've got to write a bit more content, you can actually add per keyword 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra pages, and it'll factor in that additional content into the cost. It's just an advanced feature that I don't speak much of because it confuses people. But if you're just wondering what page buffer means, it means that you want to write more content than what the system's requiring or suggesting. Okay. The golden niche identifier, this is a really cool feature. I love this because when I'm bringing all the keywords from Kraken and the last keyword tool, typically I take the TLKT keywords, I push them through Kraken to get them to phrase match. With the new updates, it's going to be phrase match in TLKT, and I can't wait for that because then will be a direct import from TLKT straight into the project. Whack, I can work with it. Then what you do here, you basically say, give me all the pages that are less than 100,000. You can make this even 10,000. That can make me more than $1,000 per month. And what I'll do is, next to keyword, I'll put a golden star. So let me go to the project and actually show you a live project where we've got keywords mapped out. Okay. So there you can see got 2,584 keywords I've imported in. And what we'll do is we'll look at the screen and see if we've got a golden niche sitting here. Okay, there's no golden niches in this over here. But just to demonstrate what we'll do, let's just do that. We'll update that. We should have golden stars everywhere. So you see all the golden stars come up? It identifies it as a potential niche. Okay, now obviously those numbers don't make sense, so DWS is just reacting to what we've told it. But you want to use common sense when you're working with these filters. Okay. So the next thing is the silo structure. And what we're doing here is we're looking at a market, and we're basically saying, okay, if I did chop this market up, when we looked at the competing pages, how would we go about doing it? So typically with silo architecture, as a rule of thumb, everything greater than 1 million pages competing has enough room, enough subcategories, enough niches to allow you to build out categories. So that's why your silo size is always everything greater than 1 million will qualify as a silo, and the system will identify it. The category market size is basically anything less than 1 million and greater than 350,000, which is our supporting keywords. So if we let's look at this just in a very top level way, if you think of data as a pyramid, okay, it's a bit of a wonky one. Your biggest keywords usually sit at the top. These are the words that are single, they're singular. It's like debt, credit, water, surf, mountains, skiing, scuba, golf. These are all the keywords which are typically your silos, okay? Then, if we took golf as an example, we'll get a bunch of categories that define golf. And that'll be golf clubs, golf hats, golf accessories, golf shoes, golf buggies, golf batteries, golf balls. All of those things consist of different categories. And that's where we typically will fill our categories. They sit in that range. Then we got all the long tails and all the supporting articles. And these are the long 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 phrase, 10 part words that make up a sentence. These are typically what you target at the supporting article level. Okay, so with silo architecture, essentially what you're doing is you're mapping out the data model, and you're mapping it out where the money flows through this data model. So you're picking keywords from here, you're picking keywords from here, and then you're picking keywords from here. Now typically the way it works is with supporting articles, they usually pass page rank back to categories. These long tails typically get ranked really quickly. You're talking like a month, 2 months, maybe sometimes it takes a blog post, and you can get ranked for that keyword. And the bits and pieces of traffic they drive, you can drive them to this article, and you can lead them back up to the categories or even the site. That's why the golden frame is important everywhere. Now the categories, because of the support that's getting from supporting articles that have got ranked really quickly, with buoyant page rank, this inherits page rank from these supporting articles. And that keyword that you're targeting, which has got more competing pages, you shave probably about 20% of the time off to get ranked for that keyword, as well as the cost. Okay. Once you get ranked for this keyword starts passing page rank and point page rank back to the silo. But it's also got the support of the category, the supporting articles. So all this data flow, all this love that's coming back in, gets you ranked by default for the silo keyword terms. So I've seen it many times when I bought out a silo site. I get the site live, I get it indexed. I see a lot of action happening over here, and if you build your pages properly, you make sales very quickly on the long tails. These long tails then get you more traffic from the categories that go down to long tails to buy something, if it's like an e-commerce type of store, or if you're doing things here, you can basically bring them and educate them. Then because of all the movement over here, the silos enter the index, the top 1,000, and they slowly start moving up. But I've not actually done any promotion, I've done nothing. I've not spent any money other than writing that one page. That's a silo. That's the only money I've spent there. So with silo architecture, what's great about this, and what's great about setting up the rules and defining it over here, is you can basically reduce your cost. And this is what people understand. The cost to get ranked without a proper structure is high. But with silo architecture, you reduce, this comes up to sometimes you take about 40% off the actual cost to get ranked for the top level keywords. And then the other thing to say with that though is it takes time as well. That's the other thing that happens at the top. You also save on the time. Because if you targeted that keyword by itself, you'd spend a lot of money. But because of what you're doing, you're building with DWS, you're saving time and you're saving money, and you're doing less work to actually get ranked and have a chance to get actually on that keyword over there. So this is what we're doing over here with the silo structure. Is we're breaking it up into 3 sections, right? And the reason why we segment and use silo architecture is, one, we need to rank for those really quickly. We want to create a theme. The theme essentially is this grouping here. That tells us a succinct story. That's that specific market, that category within that market, defined by these supporting articles that say this category here consists of these things, and this category belongs to this specific market. That's how you can think about it in a real world scenario. That's typically what we're doing when we're defining this over here. Right, so as we go down, we get our backlink costs and our content costs. We've gone through this already. This is where we define what one unit costs you for a backlink, what one unit costs you for an article. We then went through our conversions. Our conversions basically, so many guys click through from Google, they hit our landing page, only 2% of them actually did something, and that's the money I made on it. Okay. So when we build our silo architectures, this is essentially what we're doing with DWS. We're taking all these keywords, and what we're doing with these keywords is we're actually making a story up with them, and we're mapping them out. And this is where it all comes together. So with the import keyword data, basically what happens is we've got all these predefined keyword tools that you can use. You simply select which one you use, point to the file, import, and they get dropped on the actual keyword grid here. Now, what DWS does for you is it takes every single keyword, and based on your business rules that you set, it ranks, filters, and sorts, and pushes the most profitable keyword to the top. And you can see these are keywords here that will have the highest possibility of actually creating conversions, which equals money that you'll make every single month. Now, before going to this part of the webinar, are there any more questions on the business rules and filters tab? Because this is quite important. This is the core. This is the backbone. This is what defines your whole project. And if you don't know these numbers, you're basically shooting in the dark. Is there any questions there, Russ?
It looks like we have no questions at this point on this. I'm answering another question on Brian's on the promotional module. He's interested in backlinking. So I think let me just wait a moment here and see what other questions we have coming in before we move on. I'm hoping that everybody with us understands the importance of a good plan and a computational model that uses business rules and KPIs and walks you forward from your product, giving you those basic functions of the business rules, and then compares the business rules to the estimated traffic. I hope you understand that nobody really does that very well, and that's why a lot of money is lost. Okay. Also, understand that you can also get lost forever in a black hole of infinite darkness by getting stuck and never moving forward. Domain Web Studio solves that problem as well by making this process, this what we call computational modeling, this estimations. Don't get stuck on it. Don't get paralyzed. Don't get frozen. Move forward. Get your site done in 3 days. Stick one out there. Do a test site. That's how you break through. I hope everybody understands that as well. Yeah. So Matt has clearly designed that to break through the writer's block, the publishing block, or I guess in web design it would be the web designer's block of forever planning your site. You should, once you get skilled with this, you should be done in a huge way. You should be done very, very quickly. And let me see, another question came in. I'm answering Brian separately because it's not related, but here's something from Nate. Talking about LSI and promotional costs. Yeah, another thing I'd like to say, Nate, I think we've talked before with either of you. You have a great question. That is a fantastic question. I'm going to be unplugged in this call about the nature of LSI. Domain Web Studio is less focused on LSI directly, which is another reason that we recommend doing your research. That is the keywords that you import into Domain Web Studio. I really do prefer to have all my LSI technologies. That for those of you who don't know, LSI means latent semantic indexing. It includes words like co-occurrence that you hear us tossing around in this talk. They're very, very important to me because, the best way to talk about LSI for dummies is if somebody's talking about trampolines, okay, they're probably also going to need to be talking about jumping, okay, or bouncing. It's very, very likely that on the pages that Kraken scrapes the web or TLKT scrapes the web to find the word trampolines or rebounders or mini trampolines, it's very, very likely, right? You can just guess, you can intuit that people are probably using words like jumping, bouncing, exercise, weight loss, right? But the degree of importance or domination of those children words in those conversations, that's kind of a variable, isn't it? What are the variables there? Well, the variable is you don't know exactly how much of the conversation is about jumping and bouncing and exercise and weight loss. Further, you don't know how much those children words are worth. Is weight loss worth more than the word jumping? So that's what LSI is all about. And I realize that there's been a lot of crazy geek confusion about LSI over the last 5 years. Don't get me started, okay? I get it. We helped create that. But the bottom line is this. What's the conversation? And what is the percentage of importance of the words in the conversation? And now those words are even turning into memes, right? M-E-M-E-S. In other words, entire sentences sometimes come back in Kraken related to one of your keywords. So you're asking me, I'm really biased, Nathan. Like, I want all of my keyword lists to go through Kraken and TLKT before I import them into DWS. Market Samurai brings back great words as well. Sometimes I've used SEO Denver's, and a few other tools like that Matt and I kind of play around with more anecdotally, like, Uber Suggest and all these different things. These are just, Google's real-time, Google Instance real-time thing. Matt has a bot that scrapes it. But guys, gals, I always dump those giant words. I take every single long tail, I steal them all from Google and put them in a giant pile. Okay, Matt and I do crazy, so does Sue. We just, we have these piles, but I don't do anything with them until I dump them into Kraken's import function. Or, I do that in Kraken first just because I own it, and I don't want to have to bother Matt's bot or any other things, the phrase match and everything else. So since I have Kraken, it's just a lot easier for me to import Kraken into Domain Web Studio like that. So that's what I do. I'll actually go through every single long tail on the Google Instant and pull them back and find out if any of them are profitable. And then I'll take only the profitable ones. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when Nathan asks me, is LSI important? Yeah, because when I find if there's cost and traffic tied to those, I'm not just looking for that. I actually analyze to see if exercise is the most profitable and most talked about word related to my product or service keyword, which is trampoline, I'm going to start working on articles and focus on that in Domain Web Studio way before I would jumping. See what I mean? Okay. And not only that, Matt's going to show you what I love about DWS that is just a complete mind blower is that Matt has it all laid out so it tells you if it's an educational word, is it a profitable keyword. That's my favorite part of the whole thing. It's just like you can look at 1,000 words, you can show them that. Move your cursor over there, Matt, because I just think it's mind-blowing. On the screen here, you can tell whether it's cash, whether it's educational. Just show me the icon column there.
Ah, there you go. I just wanted to get this.
So, yeah. You can see where those dollar bills, I had Matt put those icons in there because, show me the money, man, right? I mean, who cares? Show me where the money's at. So what I do, so I like to first, Nathan, to answer your question, it's kind of heavy, actually. And you can see as a developer, we've got this job of taking this amazing thing that Matt's been working on for several years with Kelly's and Sue's, Kraken and TLKT. Sue's been overseeing all of this and putting it together. So I go to, my route is this, third-party keyword tools of any kind, Kraken, and then Kraken to Domain Web Studio. And Matt, being gracious, has allowed everybody a function, in case they don't have our tools or can't afford them, to go Market Samurai or SEMrush or any other function. And you can still get an amazing site. Your site, even if you don't have Kraken or TLKT, this is not a platform pitch for those products. You just asked me, so I'm letting you know. However, you can still have the best site in the universe in most niches, even if you're not doing that. Even if you're not, Nathan, even if you're not doing latent semantic indexing and you're not as willing to go to that extra mile, you can still have the best structured silo architecture just by virtue of the fact that Matt's laid out the profit margins and the profit target, and you can just outsource it in a silo function.
Yeah, and the thing is,
so I hope that makes sense.
If you follow the money, the story becomes clear.
Oh, also, yeah, and Matt, Jeff, yeah, Market Samurai, out of respect for my friends over there, I just want to be really, really careful. Folks, you heard it here first. It's pretty official that we're the last man standing that is not starting to move over to Bing data for the keyword tool. And Bing data won't fly for us for building website style architecture. And Kraken and TLKT is not using Bing, so thanks, yeah, Jeffrey. I'm kind of proud of that, and I don't want to boast because, you know, anybody can get hit with major Google updates. We just don't know. And every keyword tool has problems, but I don't really feel like I can do anything with Bing data because it's
irregular.
It's a portion of the market within it's a portion within a portion of wrongness. It's like 2 degrees of wrongness, so I can't deal with that. So just letting you know. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Cool. Yeah, so basically what happens is we set up all the rules for the site. We know exactly what's going on. So from a top level overview of how the screen works. On the left, the first block here gives you your silo framework. As you move keywords from the grid, they'll appear over here and they'll start branching out. You can actually see how we actually map out the stuff in quite depth. So there it gets all mapped out, so you can see the whole structure, okay? The way the screen works is on the left, silo framework. Right below it, you've got a scorecard. I like calling it the scorecard because what this gives me here is my budget, how much of my budget I've got left based on what I've defined as the cost to actually target a keyword, and then what is my actual cost on the blueprint already. Then, if I'm doing direct sales and I'm ranked for all my keywords and I've met all my business rules, essentially this blueprint can make me 26,000 a month. The profit would be 8,000 for the first month because it's basically taking 26 less 18, which gives us 8, okay? So we do a check straight off, will be profitable once I'm ranked. After the first month, your profitability will be absolutely around about there. For a year, 320,000 on a cleaning business. That's what we can make if we define this. And this is only based off Google, guys. These numbers are based off Google data. We're not talking about any other traffic we're driving from social media, from all the other stuff we do to promote. Okay, these numbers only look at what is in the grid. Okay, we're not forecasting on social media traffic. So this is like the bare minimum of what you can achieve if you only get ranked in Google and you don't do any other promotions with anything else. Okay. If you're doing lead generation or affiliate type of stuff, you can see roughly what you can make. And then at the bottom here, we look at the traffic analysis, and basically it tells us what the potential conversions will be per month across the whole blueprint, what's your average conversion rate, what's the search volume per month, and what you're going to pay per clicks per month, what's the cost going to be per click, and roughly how much money you're going to spend if you're buying traffic. So if you're going to buy traffic, you're actually going to spend more money in a year driving traffic to your site, and you actually run at a loss than versus getting ranked. So I look at these numbers here and there and I decide, okay, do we actually do PPC spend? And this is what you can start thinking about, because obviously if you're going to be buying traffic, you can buy traffic from other places, but you just need to be aware of what the numbers are. This is very important. On the top over here on the right hand side, this is our filters. We can type any keyword in over here and we can basically, it's a wildcard filter. So if we just put in service and I press submit, it will return all the keywords that have the word service in it plus the prefix and the suffix of the word. So yeah, I've got 100 words. Actually, I'm lying. Yeah, 172 words out of the 2,592 words that we see over there. 172 of these words contain the word service, and then there's all the service things. Then just under the filter, this big red button is delete all the keywords in the research grid. This will remove all these keywords. Okay. Just below this, we've got our exports. My favorite is this one, View Silo Framework Blueprint. So when I open that up, it gives me a spreadsheet view of what I've mapped out. So I can look at the silo, the categories under that silo, and if there's any supporting articles. I can look at the supporting keyword, which we deal with in the DNA braid, which I'm going to speak about in the next webinar, where we define what keywords must be used on a page. And then we've got all the metadata, the costs and everything. We can actually see what's going on this whole blueprint, and we can print it out as a spreadsheet. Okay. We can export all the data out here. These are spreadsheets. That's a blueprint. This is all the keyword data. And then finally, we've got our keyword grid. Now, it's running over 2 pages, so we can hop between them. We can add a keyword. If there's a keyword you want to just add in, you got the details. Just fill it in over like that. And then here's the keyword grid. This is where the heart and soul of silo architecture comes in DWS. This is where we define what keywords are good for our business, and we move them across. And typically the way this works is if we import 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 keywords into the project, DWS will apply 17 checks to every single keyword on every single row, and then rank, filter, and sort them so that the most profitable keyword will float to the top. So ironing services will make us the most money than anything else. If it's in black, that's good. If it's in red, it means you're actually running, it's not making enough money. Okay, so very quickly we can see the profitable keywords popping up. This is what Russ was talking about. We're tackling long tails. You can import all the long tails from instance and all this stuff. And we have 3 checks that we use to check this profitable. We look, if we're ranked, will we make our money back in 2 months? If we get ranked, will we make our money back in a year, 12 months? So here we can see we won't make our money back in the first 2 months, but we will make it back in a year, and we hover over it. That keyword will still make us $6,000 in a year. So you can look at the keyword from different perspectives of profitability. And then the green ticks tells us if it fits into our business rules. So if the keyword is not over budget, it will actually filter it away. If you want to see all the keywords, you can simply just check the checkbox here, submit the form, and it'll show you absolutely everything that fails, everything that passes. So when we look at the columns, what we got here is the first column there moves the keywords. You select the keywords you want, and you can move them across to here. In order to do that, simply click on the node that you want to have, okay, the keyword fall under. So any keyword you click on, the keywords you select will actually go underneath them. So I'll click on cleaning tips, and what I'm going to do is also take cleaning tips. I'll just take one as example. When we scroll at the bottom, we end up with move to blueprint, and that's, you click on that button and it'll take a keyword and it'll put in the blueprint. We then can add it as a primary synonym, where it'll bind it to the keyword as a synonym, but it won't remove it from the list. And the same applies to supporting terms. We can actually bind keywords to a page that define the page. And this is what we call our DNA braid. We'll cover this tomorrow. We then have delete the selected keywords. So if there's certain keywords you don't want, you can delete them. Or if you click on the second delete function here at the bottom, it clears the whole grid. So I'll just click on move to blueprint. But before I do that, to recap, what we did is we clicked on cleaning tips, and we want to put the keyword we've checked into that blueprint. So I click there, move to blueprint, and when the page reloads, what you'll see is that cleaning tips has been shifted across. So there's cleaning tips, and then we've mapped out cleaning services underneath it. It's as easy as that to map out the silo structure. So simply select the keyword, who's the parent, select the keyword you want underneath the parent, press move to blueprint, add a synonym, add as a supporting keyword, whatever suits you there. Now you're probably wondering how we get to actually work these numbers. So this is a basic screen. It gives us our competing pages, search volume, the conversions. Now we apply our business rules to the conversions there, and this shows us, okay, with all the rules we set in place, all the KPIs, this keyword will make conversions. So it takes this conversion and it multiplies it up by how much profit we make, and we can see how much we earn versus how many backlinks and how much content do we need, and it gives us a price. Now with supporting articles, SSA, okay, it gives a number 9. What we're actually saying is, in order to get ranked for this keyword, your theme will need a minimum of 9 pages based on the page rank you're dealing with to get ranked for that keyword if it's sitting in a silo level, okay? So typically, you'd have it as a silo, you'd map out 9 pages underneath it. The cost, however, is made up of the amount of backlinks plus 1 article equals that cost. And that's how the cost is calculated out. If you want to look into this keyword in a lot more detail, we've created a function over here that shows you all the rules in a glance. We'll show you. But before I do that, what we got here is the silos, the categories, and supporting articles. These little nodes here, these little icons here with the C, the S, the SSA, they basically tell you where the keyword actually should belong within the structure. So is it a silo, is it a category, or is it a supporting article? So let's look at this keyword. We click into this node, and this gives us the keyword analysis. And basically what it's doing is taking that one keyword through a series of checks before we actually put it in. And we give it a ranking. We rank and score this keyword. So this has got a 94.12% score rate. It's a high keyword. It's met a lot of the rules. Where it failed was on a click-through rate. So there's not enough traffic and there's not enough click-throughs to meet our objectives, our goals that we're working on. So you can read through this. It gives you explanations of exactly how it works. But yeah, you can see there's 17 checks that it goes through. So it checks the traffic, it checks your on-page conversions, it checks your backlink and your development costs. It looks at how much profit you'll make versus how much you're going to spend. And in the end, it checks, is it profitable? Now, there it goes through, there's all the numbers, it tells you the whole lot. It's a very, very cool card to check out when you're looking at what's the makeup of the keyword. Okay, so if you need to update a keyword, sometimes you get keywords and you look at Google and the competing pages are different. You can simply click on that little icon over there, and this will just allow you to update the data. It's as simple as that. Just go in there, tweak it, change it, press update, and it'll tweak it and then resort it. So based on whatever you change it on, it'll actually rank, filter, and sort the keyword and put it in its right place. You can see whether it's a good keyword or not. So in summary, the silo framework is where we build all of, this is the site structure, this is the skeleton, this is what defines market, this defines how the money runs through the market. These are the keywords that are most profitable and they're the keywords you want to own. Okay, this is why we go through all these keywords and we cherry pick the best ones and we build it out, because this is a starting point of the whole process to get to promoting. You define this, you write the content for it, you get it live, you promote it. And if you just do those 5 simple steps, you'll see results.
Hey, Matt?
Yep.
Let's take a deep breath for a second, just to let everybody's brains just cool off a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and
do you guys want to ask questions?
Yeah, I know you had coffee this morning, and let's just go ahead for a second. Yeah, great presentation so far. That's a comment. Thank you, and some thank yous. Great job, Matt. I mean, I do appreciate you guys, the compliments. Matt has been working super hard, so I don't want to ignore those. Kevin is asking me another advanced question about wildcard symbols for fine-tuning word variants. I know what he's talking about. Some applications have this too. In the keyword filter, are there any wildcard symbols we can use for fine-tuning, for example, LO, parentheses, LO star SER, parentheses, to find one or more word variants? I don't think you have that program. You don't have wildcard programmed in at the moment, do you?
I'll do a check. I've not done it, but it's a SQL that does this. So,
it might have been in the library. I don't know if it's in the library.
Let's just try this. I'm just putting the stars, which is the wildcard. You can see anything to serve on either end.
Let me see what Jeffrey's saying while you're doing that.
No, it doesn't like that.
Yeah, I'm glad that doesn't like that. Okay, so Kevin, we'll take that as a hint. I hear you.
The way the way that the wildcard works is you can just type in part of the word wherever SERV is found.
Yeah, I know what it does. Yeah. We don't need to go deeper into it. I just wanted a yes or no. And that's more of a software thing. These are all features and requests. And I'll toss that in there. Let me see, we've got some other things. Sure, Kevin, no problem. And again, any features and things that you have, just go ahead and send them, our way. We try to archive them in a sea of request features. We definitely hold yours in high regard, Kevin. Let's go ahead and look at another question. I'm going to jump in here, Matt, while you're preparing for our next wave here, and I'm going to answer a question from JD. JD has asked a question which I think is fair and useful. I talk most of the time about empires and millions, so on and so forth. Could you please talk about small empires created fast and flipped for a couple of thousand? What do we need for this? How many WR2s and WR, so on and so forth? That's a great question. And just keep in mind, JD, that the reason I'm talking about large-scale empires is because you have to have a scalability reference in order to walk backwards down into normalization of data and estimation. And computational models are all based on different scale. So it's not, first of all, I'm not saying that there isn't some hype in what I'm saying, but it really isn't. Like, we take our models from Sue's corporate backgrounds and we look at our corporate clients. Like, one of the massive networks we're working on is $200,000 a month business. And these types of things. And I know that can seem like a scale, and that's a little bit out of reach. And so I would really like to make an attempt to stab at this question. And that's why I was kind of joking around later when I said, knowing you can see how insane Matt actually is by trying to build the web rings inside Domain Web Studio, because what Matt's essentially saying there is, okay, we can walk backwards from a multi-million-dollar network down into a scalable estimation for something like what you're talking about, JD. Just like, okay, how do I create a network for just a couple of K? Just let me get my head around something super basic. And it brings up a couple of interesting questions that I've been getting a lot of this from coaching students. So let me just do a super quick answer to that. Well, we don't have any way at this point in time, with the exception of Domain Web Studio, to give you an exact estimate that is going to tell you what a network can flip for, or even a single site, because the answer to your question, is how much can I get from this website? It's always, it depends, right? And the buyout of a site is generally, for me, about 8 to 13 times the monthly net. Okay, so we get into different things. Now, different website buyers have different standards, and the process of flipping a website is not part of this webinar and is not part of this course. However, there has been a huge demand from some of our students to learn more about flipping. There are people that want to get into the business model of flipping. Okay, in other words, building sites for the sake of building sites and then flipping them. The problem with that, and I'm not saying that you can't do this, okay? The problem with that is that if you don't have a buyer lined up to begin with, then you're working on arbitrary numbers that don't have anything to put inside the keyword decision screen that Matt has provided. So you've got to put something in there. If you know your market and you know what products you're going for and you're able to fill out Matt's business rules, then obviously you're going to be able to flip a network more accurately, because what happens is when you use Domain Web Studio to slap down data in front of a prospect, remember, selling a website is still sales, 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 okay? That's the bad news, JD, is that you've got to know what you're doing. And I'll be really honest with you, I have my own mentors, even beyond Sue and Matt, that I use to learn how to, how I learn to sell, websites and large networks and this type of thing. And we're trying to incorporate all of that into there. I mean, some of these networks can sell for several $100,000, and you can sell them for, you can sell a single website for $2,000 as well. So I can't say, all right, hey, for example, I have a demo site with my name on it. Normally on Flippo I don't put my personal name on the account. I've got one of the PinVid websites for sale. I knew $4,000 was about 3 times the market value of certain things, but I actually used that to hedge against other sales that I'm making in a network. So I put them as a high price. I don't really care if they sell. And these are all sales tactics. So I just want to close this statement by saying thanks for the question, JD. I can't tell you it will take 5 WR2s, because it depends on so many things. WR2s and what market? How does Matt's business rules compare. What kind of data do you have, and how are you presenting that? Do you have a list of buyers pre-existing before you go to market to flip that site? Can you get a site for $2,000 while somebody only gets $2,000 for a network of 5? Yeah, a lot of that depends on whether you have a network of pre-existing buyers. It also depends on how good you are at sales. And here's the cold truth. The cold truth is, if you're going to flip websites, you need to start getting good at sales, because you're landing right back down on the sales arena again.
Yeah.
You have to actually be able to. You have to be able to communicate them. It's just what Matt was saying earlier. You still have to be able to communicate the value. Matt is a master of creating technologies that, and so is Sue and Kelly, that generate data to literally be what they call that site assessment tools that blow people's minds. I mean, if you even type into the search engine, you type in, how much is my domain worth software, there's all these PHP scripts out there that they're supposed to tell you how much your domain name is worth. Okay, that stuff is, guys, it's just all crap.
Yeah, that's not
what
to work
matters,
on anything.
Yeah, no, what matters is the site making money? When you start getting into $2,000 to $10,000 and above, JD, you're going to need to show proof of income. And that's going to you're going to have an offer that's going to have to be signed off on. You're going to have to go into escrow and look at all that. So if you're really seriously interested in who I studied with for website flipping and who I continue to study with, I have my own mentors. It's Matt, Sue, and there's a third-party organization that we're doing a lot more work with that is really, really powerful. If you want to know what that is, just contact me privately. I'll let you know. But it is beyond the scope of this webinar. Because how much can you sell a site for? Well, at the end of the day, every question is, can you sell it? And whether or not you can sell it is what you can prove, and that's why we built Domain Web Studio.
Yeah,
right,
these numbers over here, profitability, the business annually, this blueprint I've mapped out is basically forecasting this business should have the potential of generating $321,000 a year in business, okay? Now, if you're building sites and you don't have a business to back that up, then you need to build sites that are basically selling something, because you need to have the money trail. You got the money trail, the money comes.
Right.
If you don't have, if you just got a lot of stats and stuff that people fake and you throw it on the flipper sites, you'll get busted very, very quickly. So you want to get a good reputation of a guy who builds a site, it's workable, it's got traffic, sales will happening, conversions are happening. The guys will come back to you time and time again because it's easy business for them. It's the same as them lending money at a high interest rate. They're basically investing X, they're getting so much back out. That's what it boils down to, these guys. And that's why we've created the whole scorecard, so you can actually keep your eye on the numbers. So after a year of running the site, if you are bringing that kind of cash in, it doesn't have to actually be you. It could just be passing leads on to another company that's actually doing the work. And you're getting $10, you can essentially go to them and say, listen, I know how much this website's worth to your business. Make me an offer over $100,000. Because you know they're making roughly $300.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to have those numbers. That's both the good news and the bad news, is just a little bit of insight on how, if you have a real estate background, you're going to do really well in flipping sites. Matt happens to. So just think about that. We'll talk more about this in some other courses that this is the localleadsempire.com course, localleadsempire.com. This is a course that Matt is actually revealing a ton of his tips in his multi-million-dollar business, where that is there. And again, I know I can't really help myself, JD. I have to, I always walk backwards or down from the big numbers to the small numbers, because real estate essentially deals with large numbers. And fascinatingly, my other mentor outside of my own organization, who mentors me, he doesn't even deal with a site unless it's a $50,000 flip. And most of the words, jargons, contracts, and information that he uses are all from the real estate business. In fact, he actually takes people's, 401ks and reinvests them. And instead of doing it, he's a millionaire in real estate as well. He puts them back into online real estate properties. And the bottom line is that 8 to 13 times the amount of the net is one way of looking at it. And I can show you some more parameters. When it comes to the network of sites is the same thing as flipping a site. It's just a bunch more of them. Okay? So we'll get into that and some other topics. Those of you who are working on local real estate or local properties or local leads, I do suggest that you take a look at Matt's course, localleadsempire.com. It's fairly affordable, and we get into this in a lot more detail, more at the local level. Okay, and again, JD, the WR2 course where I'm talking about how I quickly burn and build pin-vid sites and video sites pretty much in 24 hours a pop, and then how those can be flipped within 2 to 4 months of development after building them and following Matt's methods to drive traffic and rank. We have a course on that coming out at the end of November. Other than that, that's kind of where our training ends as far as website flipping until 2013. So I hope that's helpful.
Any other questions there on this? On today's webinar, I don't want to go beyond the silo framework, so I'd like to address any questions people have with regards to silos, map them out, understanding the business rules, understanding how the business rules influence keywords. Remember, guys, you don't want to invest money into a keyword that's not profitable or it's an information-based keyword. Okay, if there's no money tied to that keyword, then the chances are you're not going to actually get sales. There's a place for education, but on your primary, you want to focus mainly on the money. You want to map out the money flow, and you want to target those, and you want to build your business around those keywords. And this is typically why we built DWS the way we've done it.
Yeah, and also I would like to say in regards to Matt or myself, if you have a small network or even a single website or something, and you're wondering about it, you can always contact the help desk, and if you need a private consultation, I just generally throw those across Matt's plate, and he either accepts or rejects them based on his time. We're happy to look at web strategies for you. I don't run any big networks or sell anything large until I talk to Sue and Matt about them, because we have to run the numbers before we even make an offer. So those are things to look at. Here, Matt, here's another thing that's come up. I think Joel has provided a really great question.
Sure.
He wants. It's kind of indirect compared to what you were just talking about, but I think it is in a lot of people's mind. With the one feed out in Domain Web Studio, do we use it like we do with the blog feed out and the YouTube feed out and input into something like OnlyWire? Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, that's what he's asking about. I can address that if you want. I just want to let you know that question was here.
Yeah, I'll just say yes. You can address it as well, Russ, because you've got
Sure.
the courses on it.
Well, yeah, we are finishing up the final curriculum for one feed, which will come out as a course. But just to answer as much as I possibly can, folks, on this while you're here, the interesting thing about a feed, I just want to really keep things really, really simple with feeds in 2013. RSS can be used for automation, in other words, backlinking. It's been very popular the last couple of years. Or it can be used to generate content, right? Or it can be threaded through the social space. So the way that you think about it is there's either machines looking at RSS feeds when they're generated, or there's human beings looking at the content, or one link at a time to the content that comes out of RSS feeds, or there's both. If you're really clever, you can do both. Matt and Sue and I have designed the one feed out for Domain Web Studio to be both. In other words, yeah, I have a kind of a philosophy when it comes to feeds. For the most part, stick them anywhere and test them first. Stick them anywhere that'll think get you backlinks, or but be careful when you're sticking them in places where human beings actually see them. I made a mistake the other night, and there were like 15 uploads to my Facebook fan page, but through my RSS feed. But I know that that's not a problem, because I know most of my users end up seeing the updates on their news feeds at different times, because Facebook buffers the feed when it comes through. So these are the kind of things that you need to be the most concerned about. If I stick this feed here, are real people going to see it? And if I stick it here, is it going to be effective for my SEO? Well, I will be really clear with you guys. Sue has posted an article on Network Empire /blog and ThemeZoom yesterday. We posted it, where we talk about the priority of backlinks and what is the least effective and what is the most effective. And we've actually tested these pretty accurately. Things like OnlyWire, there's a diminishing return that's happening more and more on OnlyWire. And it 100% depends on how you've set them up. If you've set them up and someone's given them a little bit of love, they have a real profile, you got a link from the profile. If you're on a Fiverr and somebody's done a personalized, if you've set them up as a WR1, which means they represent your brand, I suggest that you do those in-house if you're using OnlyWire. Make sure that somebody in-house who cares about your brand and what you're saying, sets those up. If you're going to do WR2 or WRS2, then just use OnlyWire Fiverr Gig and set them up and just stuff every feed in the universe into their little RSS in. Okay. that's fine because you don't have a lot to worry about, right? What you do have to worry about is you don't know what the backlinking return on investment is going to be. I'm not having huge amounts of luck with OnlyWire. It's like it's third or fourth priority, but it does give you a little, it's a tiebreaker, okay, for a lot of things when it comes to long tails. So I'm not saying it's not worth doing. I'm just saying that take everything into consideration. Those WR2 OnlyWire functions are essentially for auto backlinking and auto bookmarking. Now, WR1 can still be useful with OnlyWire, but I don't really recommend automating that as much. You know, just be a little bit careful with it. Understand what feeds create which kinds of content, and understand which feed. If you have garbage, for example, take one of my auto blog networks. I've got a series of like 20 sites or whatever that there's videos being uploaded from YouTube that are theme clustered and focused, and you know there's sometimes hundreds per day. I mean, there's sometimes thousands of videos on an individual blog that I'm auto blogging, right? Well, they all have a lot of feeds coming out of them, right? Well, I don't want to just stick those feeds just anywhere, but, you know, and people that actually know me, I don't want to necessarily, I don't want them to see the stuff that's coming off of YouTube because they're WR2s. The sole purpose of those blogs are to drive traffic, long-tail traffic from the video viewers to my WR1 profit goal, right? And that's true with articles too. So when you take a feed off of a blog that's auto-generating content, you want to make sure that you don't put that in a WR1 branded space. Does that make sense, you guys? So when you look at Domain Web Studio, Matt has carefully organized, actually really mind-blowing. We've carefully organized and we're going to talk about this next week, I think, WR1 rings, WR2 rings, WR3, so that Matt's enabled it so that through the process you don't get confused about what rings are what.
And what content's moving through it.
So he's trying to help you make sure that you don't mix your yins and your yangs. You know, don't mix your peas and your carrots. Don't send out crap to people who might be important to conversion into your bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll show you all of that in upcoming webinars. So I know that the one feed to rule them all is a point of contention. We're going to be getting into that, and hopefully it will begin to make more sense. The bottom line is that make sure that when you take an RSS feed and you're sticking it somewhere, ask yourself, are human beings going to see this, or machines going to see this, or both? And if it's human beings, make sure that it's the content that you want them to see, and ask yourself, how is this branded?
Yeah, that's why we say in the promotional plan, you got to sell the click. Don't write content to get backlinks. Write content to get traffic. Because as the writer writes it and as the person publishes it, if your one feed's set up, as soon as that guy says, I've done my job, and he presses publish, it streams out in the web. And you can imagine if you've got 10 guys writing on different time zones, writing different good articles, you're going to have these signals flying out of the one feed and getting broadcasted across the web in different media formats depending on what the guys are doing. And it's the links back to that which creates this net. So if you're selling the click, you're writing traffic-driving articles and creating traffic-driving media, that's going to get published. So it doesn't matter if the bots or the people see it. As long as your quality is good, you'll drive the traffic back into your website. That's
right. Also, JD, based on what Matt just said, I want to readdress something you said a little bit earlier. I can tell that by your series of questions that you're looking for a self-funded venture. There are people that have used Domain Web Studio and Kraken to preemptively sell a project before it's even started just based on the data alone. I want to repeat that because it's just an insight. It's called preemptive selling. You don't even have to build the site if you know somebody in a market. Let me give you an example. I built a website using Domain Web Studio and Kraken data. I built it first because I was using it as a demo for students. And what I ended up doing in the process of building it by using Domain Web Studio and Kraken, I found out a whole lot more about this market than I really wanted to know. And when I chose the market, I used the standards. Is it a neurotic market? Is there a lot of memes in the market? Is there crazy stuff going on? Is there profitable products? There's a checklist that we have in our document called the $4 million market research questions that the three of us wrote. Now the main thing is that when I did that, I ended up needing, just by virtue of the fact that my outsourcer was building a Facebook fan page, the people came to the Facebook fan page and started contacting me in the contacts area, trying to sell me stuff and trying to get me to promote their books on the site that I didn't even want to build anyways. So I picked up the phone. So I picked up the phone and I called them, and I started pitching them. And again, JD, you can see how a little bit of sales skills are involved here, right? Well, I ended up showing them statistics and numbers in their own industry that they just simply don't have the skill. They're passionate about the industry and they're making plenty of money. I just ended up showing them skills and showing them numbers from DWS and Kraken that reveal stuff that they didn't even know about their own niche, but also it's the context, right? It's the cool software and everything. So right now there's a dialogue happening where we're bidding and counterbidding about how much you might want to buy one of my feeder or one of my primary sites for within that industry or niche. Okay, and that's an example of preemptive selling where if I had wanted to, I could have done that. It's not the best way to go, but just keep in mind that the sales process, and when it comes to site flipping and bootstrapping, Matt will tell you this because he's really good at it too. He's just done a lot of work with KPIs and showing people the numbers. If you're able to do that, you can use this stuff to preemptively sell and you can bootstrap your own projects before they're even started by using just your research data alone. I hope that's helpful.
Is there any other questions, Ross?
Nope, we're good.
Jeffrey threw up a question mark.
I think he was talking about, I think we covered that one. Jeffrey said that, the SSA is not added into the cost. Is that what you're looking at?
The SSA calculation, okay. The supporting article calculation, if you look at the cost column, it's taking the 30 backlinks cost plus 1 SSA. Because essentially you need a page to drive these backlinks to. And that gives you the estimate that it's going to cost you to promote and build that page out.
Okay. Does that answer your question? You said that something wasn't calculating, Jeff?
Yeah, the mistake most
so let me know about them.
The mistake most guys do is they take 9 articles instead of 1. That's what makes it always higher.
And he's asking, why are we not including all of the SSA?
Because it's a suggested supporting articles that you need under that keyword to create a theme. There's no way of defining how many a person is exactly going to use to work out the cost before they move it in and build the thing out. So we'll end up with 2 different numbers. So the simplest or the rule of thumb that we use is, okay, how many backlinks do we need? We have to get that number. And then we need 1 article that we're driving the backlinks to. So we're taking it from that perspective. And it's easier to sell that to a client than to give them numbers based on all the articles. Because they say, well, why do I need 17 articles? You're just trying to charge me extra. So rather we use that number to build up the themes, which makes the silos stronger.
Okay, good. Does that make sense, Jeff? And if not, you have more questions on that, let us know. The issue, one of the things that we come up against a lot, we're coming up at the end of the second hour where we're probably going to end the call. And Matt and I have agreed that we're going to go through each section. You can see at the top of the presentation here, Silo Framework, DNA Braid, Team Manager. Yep, there's the first one we've covered today. Next week we're going to go over DNA Braid, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Or are you going to cover both of those?
I think we should just do one per webinar because there's a lot to talk about on the DNA Braid, like what words define what content must be used in the article, the painkiller articles, all that kind of stuff.
All right, good. So what we're doing, preempting the upcoming application, which will be called Network Empire, we're going to go through each one of these sections for the next 6 weeks. And again, please be aware that we do have pre-existing full-on training at networkempire.com/members-area. It is actually open to the public, and there's videos already covering it. But what we're going to be doing with these webinars is going to them 2 hours each for each module so that everything is covered for you guys. And we really appreciated having you on this call, and there's been a lot of interaction on this webinar today, and I think we've had a lot of fantastic questions. Let me just wait for another 30 seconds or so to see if there's any more questions, Matt, and then we'll start wrapping up the call. Let me see what we got going on here.
There's one last question Jeff's put through there. Jeff, when you come to do the promotional blueprint, then you're dealing with the second part of the story, and that's when the costs actually become more clearer for the client. At the moment, we're forecasting with the keyword grid, and we're using the costs involved in the keyword grid to sort of preemptively say to the guy, look, this is roughly what we have to build out. These are the costs.
Okay, let me go ahead and read that to the group because nobody understands what you're talking about.
Sorry.
Question. So no, it's okay. You did great. Let me just read it out. I understand what you're saying, but I think it makes it less useful in showing a client the actual estimated cost, but thanks for the explanation. Okay, so what Jeffrey is saying is that he would prefer to show clients the actual estimated cost. Well, yeah, so repeat your answer again, Matt, so that people can have that answer in context.
Yeah, what I'm basically saying is when I pull a client in and I speak to him about his business, I say, give me your keywords. He gets them, I run them through Kraken, I import them in. We then talk through the story here, and they ask me, well, why, for this keyword, do I need 9 articles? And it's to create a theme that is strong enough to take on 481,000 pages. But we're also dealing with a page rank of 4 based on the settings. If we're going to like 3 million roughly a year, we need 17 articles. We've got to build a stronger theme. We need more backlinks. Now, here's the catch-22. You can write less content, but then you're going to need more backlinks. You can write more content, then you're going to need less backlinks because of theming. So it's impossible for us to know what the client's going to end up doing or what we're going to end up doing. We have to actually go and build it out. And when we build it out, we can get the blueprint export, which then we can go and tweak and adjust things on a spreadsheet and then show that to the client if you want to get more particular about things. But from a forecasting module, just remember that this is a forecasting engine. The keyword grid is predicting potentially what could happen if you met all these goals. And based on that, it's showing you profitability. So to keep the numbers sane and easy to remember, we have to deal with 2 things here. How many articles do I need to define a theme? And when I put that keyword into the website, that keyword is still going to cost 466 because it's still one page within the structure. We're talking about the page you've got to write here. That's why we're doing it. You have to create one page. When you move another keyword in, that one page goes in there, and you start adding the 9 to build up the theme, or the 5, or the 6, whatever the number is over there. So we're always dealing with it with one keyword, one page, and then all the backlinks that we need to promote that one page. Because remember, a page in your blueprint is a campaign. It's a promotion. You're saying this keyword has got enough value to me to write content and to actually promote it. There's no point putting just keywords in for the hell of it. I strongly don't believe in it. If it doesn't have a serving purpose, it doesn't belong in your framework. Then put it in the copy, in the content. Use those keywords when writing the articles. But the framework is the keywords that you want to get ranked for. Those are the keywords that got money. That's where transactions happen. Those are the things you want to target. And that's why we base the costings off that.
Okay. Well, we can definitely talk about it. And I would also add, Jeffrey, that there's not one particular way to do it. I know of 4 different ways right now that people close clients effectively with Domain Web Studio. But I'm actually very interested in the specifics of what's going on in your brain when you're thinking about closing a client and what it is that you're thinking with that. So I feel like these are worthy discussions because we have such a wide range of people. We have people closing clients at 5 and 6 figure levels, and then we have people just trying to make small microsites. So I really do want to know more about what you have to say. If you want to contact us via the help desk, or you want to contact us talk to us at networkempire.com or talk to us at themezoom.com. We'll definitely give it consideration. Many of you who have given us feedback on the application, we do take it into consideration, and we do look at it also. I really appreciate that. Okay, we're at the top of the 2nd hour, and I think that's enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like we have any other questions for today. I just wanted to go ahead and add that we do have questions coming in about the Kraken special this month. Please do visit any one of our blogs, and you can see or even our fan page, you can see the Kraken monthly special if you're interested in that. Again, I recommend that you're not spending your last $1, to buy Kraken. Something that you want to use when you're fairly stable. Okay, and I also want to add that that is a unique price point for this month. Also, to purchase the Network Empire Domain Web Studio application, the place that you should go to right now to do so is networkempire.com. and look at the different price options there. If you have any question whatsoever, feel free to contact us via the help desk or via our 800 number. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close this webinar. Please do join Sue Bell and myself tomorrow at the last keyword tool, which I've done a terrible job as a marketer because it is probably the best keyword research tool on earth at this time. I'm not saying that someone can't knock us off, but because I did such a terrible job marketing it, because for a lot of different reasons, just because it's so preemptive and so new, I haven't known how to create the contrast until now, to the point where Sue and I just decided to start talking about these things and training you guys on them. All right, and we're actually updating these applications, and we have a really profound, stable foundation for these tools, which we haven't had before. Kelly has been hard at work stabilizing them with all the changes, and things are going to get really, really exciting. Matt, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know you got a ton to do, and thanks a ton for being here. And I guess we'll just meet everybody next week at the same bat time, same bat cave, and we'll move into the DNA braid.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for your time.